platforms, including our partner radio stations and our partner TV station, BMTV, here in Lusaka, and available on Topstar channel 114, and that's Topstar channel 114, and also live on our Facebook page. Like I earlier said, we are live on our Facebook page, and that's 5FM Radio Zambia. Look out for that. Like it, share it. BMTV, if you don't have the Topstar decoder, you can go to their Facebook page, BMTV Zambia, and like that page, share it, leave us a comment. We'll be happy to read your comments and questions. Not forgetting that we are also live on Katete FM, that is in Katete, covering the entire Eastern Province on 103.3 FM. In Kabwe, Central Province, we are live on Spice FM, that is on 91.1, and ZFM in Kapiri on 100.3 FM, and Copper Belt is well taken care of because we are live as well on Platinum Radio in Ndola, and that is on 99.7. We are also live on Tuta FM in Mansa, covering Wapula Province on 90.7 FM. All right. And also, last but not the least, we are live on Isunga Radio in Senga Hill, to be precise. That is Northern Province on 88.3 FM. Later on in the course of the program, I will give you an opportunity to call in and interact with our guest. And let me take this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm your host, Zakaria Banda, and our guest today is Mr. Wynter Kabimba, State Council. He's also a recipient of the Honor of Distinguished Service, and he is president of the Economic Front Party. Sir, welcome.
Thank you, Zach, and good morning, dear listeners.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other this year, you know.
Yeah. I love your premises. Oh my God.
Thank you very much.
I'll get a job here. No need a lawyer.
With all the Order of Distinguished Service, you want to add some more?
Yeah, I want to add some more.
Right. Anyway, we are so delighted to host you today because I think that it's timely.
It's my pleasure.
Indeed. Now, the Economic Front and its preparedness for the forthcoming general elections is important for us to know. Where are we? What is the direction?
Oh, well, like any other political party, Zach, in the country now, we are just getting into the euphoria of the August 2026 elections.
Right.
So like every other political party, we are getting ready to participate in those elections. Because it's our belief in the Economic Front that the 2026 elections are extremely important. Probably more important than any other election in the past. For a number of reasons, that one of them being that for the first time in many years, I think since 1991, we really don't see the major players. You know, the opposition is not very good. The ruling party is getting discontent on the ground. They may not accept it, but that's what we see on the ground. This is not a country where you conduct polls, you know, to see who is leading and who is not leading. It is all about guesswork, you know. So we believe that we should participate in the election so that we give the Zambian people a broader choice,
right?
You know, amongst candidates. We may not be the best, but we shall be there.
Interesting. So all structures are intact?
We are getting our structures intact. We are encouraging them to continue mobilizing. We're encouraging them to be forward looking. We're encouraging them, you know, to prepare for success and victory.
Mm. Yeah. Now, we are in a period of so-called, you know, purpose vehicle. Any approach from others that they would want to ride on your party? Are you open to that?
Not really. We are insular in the sense that we are giving the first priority to our members. We want our members, those that have been with this political party for a long time from 2014. We believe that they deserve the first priority before we can consider anybody else. And I think we have enough people.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into, in as far as preparedness for an election is concerned.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, there is also an aspect of the recently dismissed two ministers by the head of state. And this is basically 2 months before Parliament is dissolved. In your experience of governance, what do you make of this?
It's a very difficult situation when you don't know the facts, when you don't know the reasons behind.
Right.
Because as you know, the appointment and the disappointment or revocation of appointments or relieving of appointees by the president is purely the prerogative of the president. And the president doesn't have to offer any reasons to the appointees or the dismissed people, and he's not obliged to offer those reasons to the nation. So it's an extremely speculative answer that I may give, and I think to be fair to everybody, is that we don't have any facts about this development. But can the president dismiss somebody within a short period of time before elections? Yes. Even within a week before elections, the president can exercise his powers and the relief of any one of his appointees from the position they hold.
There's been questions whether it would be wise for him to make those appointments or, replacements, considering the period of time left.
Well, it's a moot question. It depends on how you look at it. The president, I think, is vested with that prerogative. It depends on how he evaluates the situation himself.
Right.
Does the Minister of Health need a substantive minister to be in that position in the next 2.5 months? I think that judgment is exclusively for the president to make.
Mm. Now let's get into the actual preparedness of the August elections. And I think that the Electoral Commission of Zambia, this is the time when is on everyone's lips, and I think they are already on everyone's lips. Let's start with the current where they are currently conducting delimitation engagement exercises across the country, and I think it has come out strongly that there's so many different views. And a lot of disagreements in meetings that we have so far seen. What could be the issue?
The issue is that the ECZ has not given the stakeholders the parameters or the yardsticks for delimitation. Okay? I think this is information that should have been given well in advance before embarking on the exercise. I argued on one of the programs I featured, on, and said, when you want to subdivide these constituencies, are you doing it on geographical territorial boundaries? Are you saying that this area is too big? Or are you doing that because of the demographic structure? Are you saying that the population is too big in this area and therefore the population will be split into two constituencies? Why are you doing it? What are you doing? And I think this information should have been given to the stakeholders way in advance. When you watch and listen to the submissions, they actually border on those questions.
Right.
I mean, I saw a clip, I think it was on Kazungula, 2 evenings ago, where some chiefs were saying, I will not accept my chiefdom to be split into 2 constituencies. One goes this side and one goes this side. Okay?
Mm.
Yes. You want to split Kazungula? Yes. but I don't want my chiefdom to be affected. Now, how do you do that? It's very difficult to do it. So this information should have been given in advance. But you see, the information that we are getting, the explanation, the only explanation we are getting from government, was that this is good for CDF. That, people now who have more CDF, double the amount for constituencies that are subdivided or delimited. What about the ones that are not subdivided? Are they being punished for not being big enough? Are they being punished for not carrying large populations? So the explanation itself was not sufficient. And hence the problems that ECZ is encountering now in the field as it tries, there's no guidance. There were no guidelines, given for people to anticipate that, on the basis of these guidelines, I think this constituency is going to be subdivided. There was nothing like that. Okay? There would have been nothing wrong with ECZ giving, a table of constituencies and their geographical boundaries or size, and also give the population size of those constituencies. And then say to the stakeholders, these are the 2-year districts for the delimitation exercise. There was nothing like that. Okay? So, this is going to cause a lot of problems. It will cause a lot of discontent, a lot of dissatisfaction, and I think the government stands squarely to blame.
Mm.
Yeah.
And additionally to that, you also have controversies around the Electoral Commission, obviously, trying to, amend the electoral process with the most controversial one being the removal of death stamp on the ballot papers.
Look, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, is an institution which is mandated to manage and conduct and administer elections in the country.
Right.
That is, its statutory function. But they are not the owners of the elections. The owners of the elections are the stakeholders. So, whatever ECZ wants to do, it must be with the consent and support of the stakeholders. Even if ECZ thinks that, or the government thinks that they are doing this with the best of intentions. Because the election is about the voters, the election is for the voters. You can't have an election without the voters. And therefore, if you want to conduct a peaceful election, it must be with the cooperation of the stakeholders, and in this case, largely the voters themselves. The people that have registered to go and vote, they must understand what you are doing. They must agree with what you are doing. They must agree to what you are doing. You must carry them along. If you are going to conduct an exercise which is fraught with the controversy and discontent, then it means your wagon is empty, the passengers have been left behind. So I think ECZ, with the best of its intentions, must ensure that it carries the stakeholders along. When you start hearing such questions arising, which actually give rise to suspicion, because people don't understand, why are you removing the death stamp? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? Again, it's coming too late in the day. These consultations should have been done 2 years ago, for example. But when you are very close, to the election, it's like now you're having afterthoughts about how you should conduct the election. So it's important because ECZ must appear to be an electoral commission of Zambia, of the people, for the people, by the people.
Mm.
Okay.
Does the removal of the death stamp bring suspicion by yourself as an
Yes. How do you establish the authenticity of the document? If it is not stamped, what other alternative, what other assurance is ECZ giving us that a non-stamped document will just be as authentic as as the system that they are getting rid of? What are they telling us? They should tell us how to establish the authenticity of that document which is not carrying a date stamp. I think that's where the issue is. The reason why you have a date stamp on a government document is to establish its authenticity. Now, if the date stamp is absent, then you must tell us as stakeholders, how are we going to establish the authenticity and the genuineness of the document that is going to be uttered or that is going to be presented in this election? I think that's a question. And I think it's a fair question. And I think it's a fundamental question for ECZ to answer.
You did make mention of the fact that your existence now and your intentions to run for the 2026 elections is based on the fact that, and I'm sure you're also looking at the fact that most of the opposition political parties are not ready. They don't look like they are ready. Now, my concern, with all due respect, the fact that you are president of the Economic Front, but I mean, you have an origin. You come from a political party that you so cherished and you were SG for. Yeah. And to see where it is today, what do you make of what PF has become of today?
Well, let me just correct my statement if that's what I said. I'm actually not saying that the opposition is not ready. I don't think I'm in a position to make a judgment about the other colleagues in this process. I think everybody that you would speak to, they will tell you they are ready.
Right.
And I think that is that should be the position.
Right.
But talking about PF, when I saw Michael Sata dying, when I saw the environment that was brewing within PF, when I saw the groups that were emerging within PF, I was convinced, Zach, beyond doubt, that PF will not live beyond Michael Sata. I was convinced beyond doubt. I didn't have to be a soothsayer. I didn't have to be a papa. I just needed to be a member, a sober member of the political party called the PF, who had studied the characters within the party, their intentions, their mischief, and their ill intentions. So I'm not surprised about what is happening in PF today. It is something that, in my view, I foresaw. And that's why I've said in the past that it is unfair for colleagues in the PF today to try to apportion blame to anybody outside PF that there could be somebody with a long hand that is destroying or dismantling this political party. PF did sow the seeds of its own destruction post Michael Sata. The first thing that they did, they changed the complexion of PF and brought in a lot of non-original PF members, gave them, positions, okay, without testing their loyalty to the organization. So the complexion from that time changed, and because the complexion changed, even the culture changed. The corruption that Michael Sata tried to actually nip in the bud thrived in the post-Michael Sata era under ECL. It thrived. A lot of people today are in problems because, I repeat what I've said in the past, because of the weak leadership of ECL. People are in prison, people have died, people are sick, people are broke, their families are suffering because of the weak leadership under which they worked during the ECL era. So there is no way, PF is going to survive this seismic headwinds in its way. No way. They will try and try and try, because the seeds of destruction which they did sow themselves have now matured. What is the word in Nyanja of harvesting? Okay?
Reaping what was sown.
Yes, reaping. Harvesting. What they did sow. They are reaping. The consequences of their own destructive tendencies. So there's nobody destroying PF. PF is on a path of self-destruction. That's what it is. How do you have non-PF members that were never there, in 2001 when PF was formed? How do you have a stepchild claiming the biological relationship with a stepfather? You tell me. How in God's name would you have that situation? That a stepchild in my family wants to compete with me in terms of rights with my with my father. He has no biological relationship with my stepfather, but he wants to lay claim to his inheritance more than me. That's what is happening with PF. You don't even know now where PF is. I don't even know myself who is PF anymore, because I don't know where PF is. Because the people that are clamoring to take over PF are not PF in my view. They're not PF. So if they are not PF, it means there is no PF. That's the position I take. And I can speak with authority because I know PF as a political party very, very well. I worked in that political party. I was Secretary General of that political party. I knew almost every party functionary in the leadership of the party at the time. And I knew the kind of unity and homogeneity we tried to build in PF. All that has been thrown overboard into the sea. Okay? Those that thought that they were punishing me have come to realize that they've simply punished themselves. Okay? So, the evil that they did so, they are reaping the harvest of that evil. Because many of them were evil. Many of them had ill intentions. And evil can only give you evil. There's no way evil can give you order. There's no way evil can give you a blessing. And they haven't seen the West yet, in my view. And I hope I'm wrong. But they haven't seen the West yet. They haven't seen the West yet. They will be post-2026, there will be completely no PF. And I think it's Davis Mwina who has said it, and I think he put it well. He put it well. That there will be no PF to talk about in the post-26 period.
Mm.
Yeah.
But let's come down to the fact that you are running for president this year.
Yeah.
Your party, Economic Front, is up against the UPND government, which has continued to receive accolades, even from organizations such as the UN, for remarkable achievements in terms of the economy and economic reforms as well. It must be quite challenging, no, when you are up against a performing government in an election.
Well, is this the first time that I'm in a situation where the ruling party and its government are receiving accolades, you know? No. We saw this with the MMD in 2011. We saw this with the MMD. There were two intelligence articles from the Economist magazine. Very credible magazine in the world. Very credible. They ran two articles. If I remember, one was in February of 2011. The other one was in July of 2011. And in both articles, the Economist magazine was predicting that MMD would win the election. In both articles. And they gave reasons why RB was going to win the election. And one of the reasons they gave was one of incumbency. That's one of the reasons which they gave.
Right.
Okay? The question is, did RB win the election? The answer is an obvious no. He didn't. He lost very badly to Michael Sata by over 200,000 votes. Irrespective of those predictions, does the UN, or any UN agency vote for elections in Zambia, vote for any candidate in Zambia? The answer is no. Does the World Bank vote, for any candidate in Zambia? The answer is no. Does the UNDP do so? The answer is no. So as a history student, I don't fret, over that. I go back to history and say, I've been on this road before. And it took RB to confess to me. One time when I went to pay him a visit, he said, I was shocked that we lost the election in 2011. Why? Because he listened to outsiders. He listened to those that said he was doing a fantastic job. He forgot to listen to the people. He couldn't hear the voices of the people and their discontent about the perception of corruption under RB's government. He forgot about that. And when the day came, I think it was 23rd of September 2011, the Zambian people delivered their judgment. And they do it very well. Peacefully. No street protests. The Zambians have come to believe that you can vote a government in, and when you are not happy, you can vote that government out. So we are not worried about all the accolades that UPND may receive from outside. We would be worried if those accolades were coming from the Zambian people. That's what would worry us.
I know that much as the Minister of Finance is an interested party, but he's on record as well saying, change of government may really, really highly risk continuity in as far as the economic journey is concerned, which obviously this UPND government has initiated and which is, according to him, yielding good fruits for longer term.
He's right. Stumbeko Musokotwane is right. Depending on who takes over. And I think that is very important. Depending on who takes over, if UPND were to lose this election.
And if you did?
We'll do it better than the UPND has done it. That is for sure. We'll actually build on what they are calling their achievements today, and we'll do it better. Anybody else, I'm not sure.
Such as what?
So
Because you've been a critic, for example, if the UPND's flagship is CDF, you have been a critic of CDF. You are definitely not building on that.
Look, I've been a critic of CDF from the time when I was in PF. So I don't criticize CDF because of UPND. I criticize its foundation from the time when the statute was put in place. I have violent views about its intended objectives, that CDF would bring you about development. I disagree. That CDF would fight poverty, which is ravaging our people today in this country. I disagree. That CDF would reduce the economic inequalities between and amongst our people today. I disagree. So, I disagree with the principle and the program of CDF purely on the fundamentals. Doesn't matter who is executing it, as long as it is called the CDF with the same objectives, same fundamentals. I don't think it will bring about the type of development that really should spread out to our people. That is my position on CDF.
What is the alternative to CDF for you? Because the
alternative manner to CDF is simple. Get the 40 million kwacha, give it to the local authority. Okay? CDF is a composition of 3 constituencies. For example, in a district, getting 40 million kwacha each. Okay? 40 plus 40, 80, plus another 40, 120. Get the 120 million kwacha, give it to the local authority. The district development vehicle that has been established, and it has shown its credentials that it can work. Get that money, give it to the local authority. Okay? Is that very difficult to do? No. Has that been done in the past? Yes. Now let me explain it this way. We are told that the CDF today is dealing with the schools. It is constructing classroom blocks, that it is doing roads. The president at one time said, I've instructed that you must grade the roads in the district, using CDF, because now you have CDF, It is given all these responsibilities. Now, you go back to the Local Government Act. You will find that in the Local Government Act, post-1965, and even post-1991, there were grants that were coming from government. One of the grants coming from government was called a roads grant. Okay? So, the government was giving the local authority money to do with roads in the district. Okay? There was also a sewerage grant. It was going to the local authority to deal with the issues of sanitation and sewerage. Okay? So, the government was giving all these grants. I think there was something, 3 or 4 grants. So, over and above the budget of the council from its traditional revenue sources, we also included a percentage of grants from government in these areas. Exactly what CDF purports to do today. But what is the difference? The difference is that that money was given to the representatives of the people. They are the people that made decisions on the ground. And what the council decided didn't have to be approved by the minister in Lusaka. So to purport that CDF is devolution, that you are devolving power to the people, when what the people decide is subject to approval or disapproval by the minister of local government in Lusaka, then you have missed the definition of decentralization or devolution of power. That's exactly my argument. Okay? You can't get that money and give it to a small group of people, of, non-elected people, with the one MP who is an interested member, or 2 or 3 MPs. In fact, one MP, because he's at the constituency, and expect that group to be a group of saints and angels to save the people. So we have an alternative to CDF. Get the money if it is there, give it to the district council. Finish. Commander. Everything will follow. So it doesn't matter the propaganda around CDF. That's a game changer, and whatever. Yeah. It will not change anything. If you were to measure, if you were in a country where you do a survey, Zach, right, and you were to measure the development index under CDF from 2021 to date, I don't think you would get beyond 40%. I don't think so. But you see, we are in a country where everything is political. So you just listen to political statements. Nothing scientific about it. Okay? I was at the farm, one time, and I asked these guys, you want contributions for the secondary school that we are constructing here. I said, what about CDF? They said, they gave us, last year, and it has to go through, around 12 wards. So we don't know when it is coming back to us. That's the reality on the ground. So I think I've answered the question.
You have. As far as CDF is concerned.
Yes. Let's go
to free education. This is another addition to that even feeding program, actually, under the UPND. And so this is another one that I believe you want to say you will better. How will you do it?
We'll do it better. Okay? There is a difference. There's a difference between a literacy program, okay, and Puko education. There's a difference. Okay. Kaunda used to run literacy programs for the elderly. Okay. They were learning how to read and write. Why? Because he realized that these people missed school. But they had to be part of the development agenda. So, learning how to read and write, how to count Ndarama, was important. So he created this literacy program, which was very effective. I remember in villages, it used to take place, when I was at secondary school and I was in the village. I used to see, elderly people saying that we are going for literacy classes. Okay? Now, that must be distinguished from an educational system which is supposed to empower concepts in children or people. Concepts. Okay? Concepts in mathematics, grammar in English, concepts, skills, science. That must be a separate program. The view I take is that what UPND is referring to as free education is actually a widespread free literacy program. And this is not difficult to establish, Zach. Okay? We are seeing it even at university level. And I always give this example, that the law school that I belonged to myself, my class with ECL, there were 35 of us. 35. So we went for a lecture, 35 of us. And in the tutorials, we are broken down into groups of 5 or 7 tutorial with a tutorial lecturer. Now, you have a law school of 250 students. That's what you have now. I don't know the tutorial groups that you can make from 250 students. So what is the effect of that? The effect of that is this, that you are churning out what you are calling law school graduates that can't even speak English well. That don't even have writing skills. That can't even present legal arguments. That can't even have difficulties drafting a document. The reason is not that they are dull. The students are not dull. It's the environment that is oppressive. The environment doesn't facilitate the acquisition of theories and concepts and everything else for students to actually learn. Okay? That is where the problem is. So what you are doing, Zaki, is that you are producing a generation of youths that have not been trained at the university on how to think and how to resolve problems. That's what you are doing. Now, can this generation bring about development? No, it can't. Okay? Why do you think that even the World Bank has set standards, has prescribed standards for teacher ratio pupils? It's because they know. Because they know it has been proven scientifically that the only way you are going to get a teacher follow the ability of the pupil to learn and carry him or her along is by giving the teacher this time due to this ratio. Now, you can't say that scientifically proven formula is wrong and your formula of one teacher to 150 pupils is correct. Or you can't say the ratio of one teacher to 40 students will produce the same results as the ratio of one teacher to 150 pupils. You can't say that. You can't say that. So there are problems with this free education. The free education, I hear UPND saying that free education, under Kaunda. Yes. Free education under Kaunda, my class at primary school was 40. That was my class at primary school. My class at secondary school was 35. That was my class at secondary school. So yes, it was free education because the ratios were correct. So you can't even compare what is happening now with Kaunda's period. No. Because it wouldn't have produced guys like me. It wouldn't have even produced guys like HH. It wouldn't have produced, all these outstanding economists, lawyers, professors, of that time, the Munandulos, the Mvungas, and the Matthew Ngurubes, and everybody. It wouldn't have produced those people. Okay? So, you have an educational system that you are just confining. Because, look, my daughter one of my daughters had the privilege to go to a private school. And she completed her secondary school there. I think it was IC at the international school, and went straight to Manchester University, one of the 10 top universities in the UK. Okay? Because the foundation was correct. I can tell you, let me put it this way. During our time, we used to have external examiners that came in law school, that came from Cambridge University, law school, and the Oxford. And if you got a good credit or you got a good merit and you got a distinction, you straight away could be admitted to those top universities, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, London School of Economics. It can't happen now. It can't happen now. You can't get a pupil now has done, grade 12 and go to Manchester University, for example. You can't. You can't. In fact, what I read somewhere is that we have even been removed from the list, at Cambridge and Oxford. That you can't just navigate there straight away. Shouldn't we be worried? Surely we should be worried. Should we be singing that this is the best that we are doing? No, because we are in a globalized world. We must make sure that we compete in terms of intellectual capability with the rest of the world. And we don't seem to be doing that.
Let's get to more reforms under the UPND. And I think the most recent one is where Cabinet approved the Superior Court's Number of Judges Act 2025, which obviously aims to increase the High Court judges from 60 to 100 and Court of Appeal judges from 31. Or rather to 31. This initiative, obviously, we know that it has been supported by the Law Association of Zambia, but critics are emphasizing the need for competency over just capacity.
Exactly. There's a difference between the competence and the capacity. And competence does not lie in the numbers. Competence does not lie in the numbers. Okay? When I was Minister of Justice, I tried to answer that question. Okay? Is our judicial system lagging behind or failing to competently operate because of the workload on the judges or the lack of capacity amongst the judges? Because coming from the background of legal practice, I was worried. I was worried about this. So I thought that I could use my position then as Minister of Justice to answer these questions. And I went to President Sata, and I've said this many times. I went to President Sata and I said to him, "Sir, our judiciary has never undergone reforms since 1964. There has been no commission to delve into judicial reforms." I submitted to Mr. Sata that, but this is not about the judiciary only. The reforms of our legal system must include the police, must include the prison service. Okay? So a commission of inquiry was appointed. And we drew up very comprehensive reform, terms of reference to cover these areas. It didn't take off. The same people that were present when this was happening in PF under Michael Sata came to kill the idea. The same people. Okay? The second thing that I tried to do to answer that question of competency, capacity versus the output, what we are seeing now, was that I went to the president and I said, "Sir, can we employ expatriate judges? And specifically from India, whose jurisdiction is very close to ours." Michael Sata agreed. We advertised in India through our High Commission there. We got applicants. And I was just about to establish a panel to go and interview, to travel to India to go and interview these people, when the then acting Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Lombechiwe Sakunda, went to the president and protested that what I was trying to do was actually passing a vote of no confidence in
Zambian judges.
A completely different,
But what was your motive? I've
already explained my motive.
But what did you want to achieve?
I wanted to make a comparison. If you have a judge here from India and you have a judge here from Zambia, and they are allocated the same number of cases, for example, let's take a hypothetical case. This one has 10 files and this one has 10 files. I wanted to be proven wrong or right, looking at the pace that each one of the two judges is going to deliver judgments or conclude the cases before them. Okay?
Mm.
So I wanted to establish that, so that once that is established, then we can know how to deal with the problem. Only then would you be able to answer the question, are the delays of judgments in our courts as a result of
numbers?
No, the workload? Or is it just the incompetence of some of the judges? So to be fair, you have to use a scientific method to arrive at that, instead of just, what is happening now. This is just guesswork. That when you increase the number of judges in the High Court, therefore you are going to have better delivery of, Yes, logically it is probably correct, but the conclusion may be wrong. And I hope what the government is doing will achieve the results.
Mm. This is the Tuesday edition of The Burning Issue. My guest this morning is Mr. Wynter Kabimba, State Counsel, and of course, President of the Economic Front Party. And we are live also on our partner TV station, BMTV, on channel 114 on Topstar. But also look out for their Facebook page. That's BMTV Zambia. Like that page. Follow our conversation, and if you can, leave us a comment or indeed a question. We are also live on our 5FM radio Facebook page, and that's also running right now. Please leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And other than that, we are live on Tuta FM in Mansa, that is on 90.7 FM, and live on Platinum Radio in Ndola, 99.7, also live on ZFM in Kapiri on 100.3 FM. Spice FM in Kabwe is live as well on 91.1. And here in Lusaka, we are on 89.9 FM. And Katete FM is also live, and that is on 103.3. Not forgetting the north, and that is in Senga Hill. We have Isunga Radio in Northern Province as well on 88.3. We are grateful that you are tuned into this particular program. We will be taking phone calls and, of course, looking at your messages on our Facebook page as well in a moment. That is on 0955221515. Now, before we pick our first caller, we would like to also find out from you, because I think our last conversation basically was on the fact that should UPND not win this year's election, and the risk economically is that we may actually disturb the journey that the UPND has started in as far as economic front is concerned. Let's discuss this one last item, health. And I think that health has really been a thorny issue. And when you saw the dismissal of the health minister, people on Facebook and on other social media were saying, we know about health. Health is always a problematic ministry. And others conclude that this is why we have a messed up health sector.
No, I don't. Having had the privilege to work in government, I have a bit of knowledge about how government functions. Having been a local government practitioner for 15 years, rising to the position of town clerk for Kitwe and Lusaka, I have a bit of knowledge about how government and local government function. Okay? Let me say this. One of the things that I saw as a major default, even under PF, I can't speak for MMD because I was not in government, but under PF,
right,
was Zaki the lack of policy on anything in this country. Policy in terms of a document which gives you the blueprint as to what direction a sector should take. Okay? We are lazy, we don't write. And unfortunately, we also don't read. We also don't want to recognize those that have the knowledge to help. We don't know how to say, put a group of people that can think through this idea, refine it, and give us a position, paper or document. Okay? What I saw from PF, because if I talk about UPND, you think that I'm just being discriminatory, What I saw even in PF is that there was not even a single ministry, including the Ministry of Justice, which had a policy document. Kulibe. Many a time when we were in cabinet, the objections which I raised to cabinet papers were purely on account that the paper was not in line with the PF manifesto. That was our blueprint. The PF manifesto. So we had a guiding document because the PF manifesto 2011 to 2016 was very comprehensive. But beyond that, no ministry had a policy document. So, health, agriculture, education are very, very important sectors. Okay? Let me take a simple example of another third world country. In Cuba, the ratio of a doctor to a patient is like 1 to 250. No, 1 to 150. That's the ratio. So you can walk in any direction in Cuba. If you walk a distance of 2 kilometers, you will find a health center. 2 kilometers distance, you will find a health center. Okay? Ratio 1 doctor to 150 patients. I'm told in Zambia, the ratio between a doctor and patient is something like 1 doctor to 1,500 patients. Okay? When I was visiting the UTH eye clinic, I asked some doctors, because I saw a crowd of people waiting to be attended to. And I asked 2 doctors one day, I said, how many of these patients, eye patients, are you able to see, do you see in a day? The doctor said, between 30 and 35. I asked the next question. Ideally, how many are you supposed to see? in a day? I said 15. And they said to me, the first 15 receive my professional attention. Beyond 15, nothing. Beyond 15, we are talking about another, double the number, 15 to 30 to 35. But these guys are not policymakers. They are just at the receiving end of this system. So you can see that you have a health system that is being overwhelmed by the population vis-a-vis the availability of nurses and doctors. That's where the problem is. How do you solve that problem? You don't do it by simply announcing that we are recruiting 35,000 health workers. Against what? And that 35,000 health workers includes drivers, it includes cleaners, it includes doctors and everybody else. You are doing that against what population? What are you trying to solve? Are you simply trying to solve the question of unemployment? If that is your objective, yes. At least you have taken 35,000 people off the streets. Yes. Success story. But in terms of delivery of services, no. At a clinic, I've given this example. At a clinic which is near our farm, there's no medical doctor there. There's not even a medical assistant. The day I was bitten by a scorpion in the night at the farm, I drove, to the clinic. The lady who administered the injection on me used to be a cleaner in that place. She's now a midwife. She's the one who delivers the children. You call that a health system which is delivering? No. What is the problem? Lack of clear policy. Lack of clear policy. You have to deal with ideas. And ideas, Zaki, do not lie only in those that support you. Ideas also lie with the others that may not support you. But that are nationalistic. That believe in this country. I don't want to live in another country apart from Zambia. I don't believe that there is a better country than Zambia in my view. This is the best that I have.
But don't you think if ministries had policies, it would then make it very difficult for political parties that assume government to try and align government work to their manifesto? No. You have a policy, you have a manifesto for 5 years. Even as a party in government, you have a manifesto which covers the period when you are in office. So your policies should be aligned to the manifesto for that period of 5 years. So the others, if they took over, they also have their own manifesto for 5 years. If you are lucky to go beyond 5 years, what you are supposed to do is review your manifesto for the next 5 years. Go back and see what worked and what didn't work. Why it didn't work and how you didn't make it work. You have to answer those questions in a very sober way in a cabinet meeting or in a policy formulation think tank. Then you work out another 5 years if you are given a second term. So it really doesn't disrupt anything. What happens is that each political party will come with its manifesto. The problem is that there are no manifestos. The manifesto for each political party now in the opposition is to get rid of HH. That's a manifesto.
so that they can come and take over. And some of them may even be admiring, the wrong things that are happening in the UPND, so that they can come and do them themselves. That's what I saw in PF myself. That some of the things we condemned MMD about, they became a right. Something right to do under PF. And one day I objected. So, this issue of personalized politics vis-a-vis the formulation of ideas to direct a nation is what is the case of our politics. Okay? That is where the problem is. And I wish the Zambian people can listen, to the leaders as we speak and figure out, which leader is talking about the problems and the solutions of a nation and which leader is just talking for themselves. Immediately you reduce your politics to personalities. You are talking for yourself. Okay? You are talking for yourself. You are talking about yourself. You are talking about your personal interest. If you are not talking about your personal interest, address the issues that confront the nation. I've given you an example. The problem I saw it in PF about health, about education, about anything is lack of a policy paper, a policy document. And I'm sure it was the same under ECL, and I'm sure it is the same today. And I want to challenge anybody in the UPND to invite me to go and get a policy document in health, for example, or small scale and medium enterprises. Give me a policy document, which the next minister, if UPND were to win, should read and say, this is where Mubanga left it, and this is where I begin from. There's nothing that I can bet my last dollar. That is the problem. There lies the problem. There lies, the politics of no development in our country.
Will that be your top priority? Should you assume government as president, that every ministry should have a policy?
Oh, yes. Look at what I did in PF. Look at what I did in PF. I chaired the manifesto committee in PF. I chaired the manifesto committee. I heard somebody on some program claiming that they drafted the PF manifesto committee. But and these are people that came at the last minute and got jobs. I chaired the manifesto committee myself. Dr. Simbiakula was the secretary of that committee. Dr. Simbiakula and I wrote a small book on the history of PF from 2011, which I still have today. I established the Policy Monitoring and Research Center to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the PF manifesto by government ministries and government departments. I established the NPPR, the National Project for Poverty Reduction, an institution which was to train youths in vocational skills. All those things are not there. And I would not have a problem if they were not there because they put something better in their place under ECL. There's nothing that they did. Nothing. They just destroyed and didn't build. So, I have an idea, Bwana, about the direction that this country should take. Very clear idea. When I sleep, in the night and I wake up, I have an idea where this country should go. And I have the experience. I don't talk politics of using, dead people, legacy of ECL. ECL is gone. Kunasira. We're just waiting to bury him. Tell us your ideas. What is your experience yourself? What have you done in the past that should make the Zambian people believe in you, that you can move this country forward? not using a dead body, not using tribalism, not trying to align yourselves, if the president is from this region, then the running mate should be from this region. That's when you go, not ethnicity. Use nationalism. And I thought that you are going to delve into the issue of the president's speech on
national values
and principles.
Do you have anything that you want to point out in that speech? Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. I wanted to say this, that if you look at Article 8 of the Constitution, which establishes or provides for this aspect of national values and principles, you actually come to realize that the intention was correct, but the implementation has not been very practical. And the implementation doesn't answer or speak to Article 8 of the Constitution. If you look at Article 8 of the Constitution on national values and principles, it is talking about morality and ethics, patriotism and national unity, good governance, human rights, social justice, equity, and all those things. When you listen to the president's speech, it is very far away from those provisions of Article 8. Very far away from. And it's not only HH who is in default, even ECL, the one who established that Constitutional Amendment number 2 of 2016. Okay? Now, why is Article 8 important? Article 8, Zach, is important because it gives us the parameters of the sovereignty of this nation as a unitary state. It gives us the parameters. How will this country continue and remain a unitary state and a sovereign state away from the imperial rule of the British after 1964? That's what Article 80 is saying to us. And what are the threats, to national unity and sovereignty today in our country? It is not the lack of CDF or the provision of CDF. It is not lack of free education or the provision of free education. The threats to our country today is national unity. The other one is national unity and, I said threats, national unity and ethnicity, which you may also call regionalism, which is broader than ethnicity. It is this tendency which is emerging of Zambians trying to identify themselves according to regions, according to tribal affiliation, and all these things. That regions now or districts want to claim the natural resources in those districts as belonging to that district alone, to the exclusion of the other 115 districts, since we have a total of 116. It is this issue of saying, but we are being discriminated against here, even as we own the gold in this area or the diamonds in this area. Those are the major threats. And I thought the president would have spent a lot of time to deal with this issue and set the direction correctly. Because if we don't do that, we run a risk of losing all these achievements and successes. And history is witness to this. The Biafra civil war in Nigeria, which raged from 1967 to 1970, 3 years, and claimed the lives of 3.5 million people, was purely on account of the Igbo people of eastern Nigeria claiming that they are going to keep, Biafra because the oil that is there belongs to them and not other Nigerians. That's what caused that civil war. 3.5 million people died, according to documented evidence. 3 years. So Nigeria was held behind for 3 years from national progress. Because one tribal group or grouping in that sovereign state decided they were going to be selfish and keep the oil to themselves to the exclusion of others. Discrimination is another one which is mentioned in Article 8. Do not discriminate against others. And yet we know that the Rwandan genocide, which claimed 800,000 plus deaths, was triggered by discrimination. That the Tutsi people felt discriminated against by the Hutus that were running government. To correct that, 800,000 people plus died. Here, with our neighbors in the DRC, the Katangese, rebels, they wanted to secede from DRC. Why? Because they wanted to claim the enclave, the one which looks like a leg, jetting into Zambia. They wanted to claim the Katanga province and create a country of their own because it has mineral or copper deposits there. That war raged for many years. So these sentiments which are arising, and some of these statements which may sound very innocent, coming from leaders, political and traditional, can be very dangerous. And I thought that the president was going to spend time, on that. We need the unity of this country, and that's the purpose of Article 8, not CDF. Okay? Purpose of Article 8 is the sovereignty and unity of this country, that we can live together as one people. And we must pronounce that and also act as we pronounce it.
Thank you very much. Let me take phone calls now on 0955-221515. That's the number you're calling us on. And remember, our guest is Mr. Wynter Kabimba, who is a state counsel and, of course, the recipients of honors of distinguished service. He is president of the Economic Front Party. We'll take your phone calls on 0955-221515. Good morning. Well, we lost that one, but thank you very much. We have a comment on our Facebook page from Henry Mavimba, who says, good morning. I want to comment on the recruitment of High Court judges. I feel we should have a shift from the current political appointments to a more independent and transparent system that should involve an independent judicial service commission, rigorously public recruitment driven by strong vetting processes. The idea is to have a high quality and sustainable judicial system that will have the trust of people through their delivery of justice, even when unpopular, as long as a decision is based on law. Let me take a call. Well, we lost that one as well, but quickly, maybe would want to make a comment on that.
The answer to that is yes or no, and no. Yes and no. Okay? Really, Zaki, in my view, who appoints who should not matter. What matters is who is appointed. Okay? I've given this example that Trump has appointed 3 judges, I think, from his first term and then this term on the Supreme Court bench, Federal Supreme Court. But many a time, even the people that are appointed have disagreed with him. So what you need here is honor and integrity of men and women that assume constitutional office. That's what you need. That is what you need. That you need men and women who say, I'm occupying this position to serve the Zambian people, not to serve the person who appointed me, or the party that appointed me, or the government that appointed me. Thank you for having appointed me, but I shall do the job for the Zambian people. Okay? I think that's what we need. What he's saying is true, going by some experience in the past. People think beholden, to... But we've seen it. All over, in most jurisdictions, judges are appointed by the president. Okay? But they still do a good job. So for me, really, in as much as I would agree with my brother there, I think the first thing that we should start with is the appointed people themselves. Also, tenga bantu banjala. Somebody has been doing nothing, and you appoint them. It's very dangerous.
Let's take some more calls then.
Okay.
Good morning. Let me take a phone call. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Nauka mwaka bwanje.
Yauka. President Wynter Kabimba mwaka bwanje.
Nauka bwino. This is my...
Yeah, sauka. Muka mtlashikuwaze.
Okay.
Ili concern yanga wa president nya delimitation. Sisi vangatilizata mbako bwana. Koloka pena muzaini lira for the supporters pani vinanga. For example, here in Mandeva, we have already registered. You are having the candidate Wynter Kabimba, who is registered, for example, in Mandeva constituency. Then what himself is going to stand, it is in another constituency which they are going to demarcate, for example, Kabanana. Now that candidate, instead of voting for himself here in Kabanana, is going to vote another candidate in Mandeva. Because it's where he registered himself. What did you take about that? Number 2, the president, when are you going to start selling your manifesto? Because so far as that now, we are not even listening to your manifesto. We are just hearing, no, I delivered it to SATA, no, I did that in PF. What we want to hear, the president? We, as when we come into power, we are going to do this. We are going to do this. I'm sure for now, we are going for election. History is no longer. We have listened to your history. You are the advisors, you have told us for history. But what we want here is to give us your manifesto, what you are going to do for this country. We are going for, we're just remaining for maybe 2 months to dissolve the parliament. So please, stand on your so that we hear your manifesto. If you are going to stand as a president, if you are not going to stand, you are going to support the others. Tell us so that we know that this president is on this party.
Yeah, Mr. Chikubabe, did you probably you probably joined in quite late into the program? I think all the questions you are asking are questions that Mr. Kabimba spoke about and discussed. But we appreciate your concern. Let me pick out just to emphasize: is this the case of voter registration versus delimitation? Which one should have come first? Because I think the issue is, yes, you delimitate. I registered from here, but definitely through delimitation, I need to vote from somewhere else.
Yes, but does that prevent you from voting for the candidate of your choice? No. I used to vote myself from a school near our farm in Shibuyunji here. Did that prevent me from voting for the candidate of my choice? The answer is no.
So I think the others have answered for you that you've already spoken about whether you're going for an alliance or you're standing on your own. I think you've responded to that.
You see, this thing, and this is where I hate English in this country, which is only spoken by less than 2% of our people. Because, ingati simuna mvesese, it's better ukamba kuti inesina mvele hapo mene mwakamba mchizungu, manje mkambeko mchibemba, oro mchinyanja, oro mchitonga, oro mchikaonde, oro mchilozi, and I can operate all these languages. Okay? But when you ask me the question and say, what are you going to do? And I spend time and say, CDF is this, no policy. And then somebody comes and asks and says, person manifesto yano. Then I get confused as to whether or not I'm just talking to you, Zaki, or I'm talking to people beyond you.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's important that people pay attention when when we are discussing.
I agree with you. Let's take some more then. Good morning.
Ukabanje.
Tauka Ukabanje.
Tauka bwino. Bakabimba honorable Mabuga Buti.
Gaboto Mabuga Buti Aisha.
Gaboto ndime brandi ukwaganyama.
Amamba ba brandi.
Twabuga Gaboto. Igusango na I'm very very privileged to speak to you for the first time since I was born. So I think quickly you are singing very very well. Semeninga kambe chabe nzaka mbajado msinyanja so that you don't explain to the host. I think mo tandi zireko issue aba ECZ. Ngati vapitako before we are in the election time. Bapunzisako my new voters how to vote. I'm very very much concerned about the expelled and the rejected votes. Kuma pezeka uti yapaka maningi. Chamene chilenga uti yazipaka maningi ni chani. Chifukwa choti benangu siwazi wa mo votera. Benangu kuvota bapaka benangu ni X, benangu plus, benangu batikinga, benangu kama inasi. I think it is one of the reasons chamene chipezeka uti rejected vote yazipaka maningi. Because of lack of sensitization to the people. So I think before we reach to that period, in this short time, I think my new voters bangazire more votera, and as I conclude, Bagabimba, my first voting since the vote young rejected or spoiled, more votera. So and I realized after. Taluza iseva UPND. So by the pamena vota ka number 2. Ninazwa more voters chifukwa chauti ninapunzira. So kuri our new voters, it is good to kubapunzisa more voters so that ma voter yamena kamba yaziche panako.
Yeah.
I think that is my simple contribution. I thank you.
Thank you.
Tarumba Aisha.
Tarumba.
There you have it. So let's take just 3 more calls, and then we can begin to conclude on 0955221515. That's the number you're calling us on. Good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Hello, ma bombe kwa.
Emkwai kachumwe bomba bomba shan ma. Emkwai atibani mule tumena kui.
Banapita kweso.
Banapita emkwai.
Yamkwai mishani wa Wynter Kabimba.
Ife wino banapita mishani.
Yamkwai. Ndifo wanda kweyo tufira chwala putula constituencies. Constituencies wali fo kuputula. Fo ifandi tuyana lubana. Watu alilembishakala voters card. Sasa ngwati kulao wale mchezo koka votera asangwati constituency indi. Wapa iwati kuvotera kasiro mwishibe. Mcho mwishibe. Wetu mamvotera ale kokumoneka. Lamba ngole votera tawishibe na MP ale mina ko kasale mini nako. Mbashi naba turufyanya hapa. Ulaba lindira se ba UPND. Landa tibali bomba bakawina. So ninga bawina ngere bayishire chitesho. Watu apa twali lembe shaka ifu yelanda. Kifanya fondi atula tulaba lubana. Afile kefiecho. Ose putula ngaba wina wake kefi putulevyo. Balanda chi economy iri bwino. Economy iri bwino kwisa. Ayipendero bachi asagiro bunga 120. Balanda timese bunga 120 na budula. Nibusaba 50 kwacha mkolera mkuitatu. Bawino bunga safika 450. Bwabula kwasa ka 300. Economy iri bwino. Economy iri bwino. Fuantu tulechula. Shose na fidula. Bale tubati kudibaya puna mvula. Bala kwata malaiti. Na malaiti mkale kwata. Guys, a 4 years road shade. Alantu chito shali pakale. Ma business yali ona ikakale. Gure chito shali pakale. Alo shisho kuwata malaiti yali. Panalu chita malaiti tukwete. Yama kampeni. Ma election yali iso chuba tupele la malaiti. Aba yupendi naba fiwaso kubomba. Finta fi uno pa ground. Fuati tule chula. So sifinti ya duwa tinkolo mili bwino. Uya mshopu tafali chibwelele kwa mtengo. Mashingolo mili kwa bwino shani. Obale mashingolo mili bwino. Nyawe ni wale isitano tusakatu. Awe ni wale pio tusakatu andalama. Yale itacha kingolo mili bwino. Watu fwe wantu tule chula. Tule chula fwe wantu. Shose finti ya dula. Ubungobo. Atupe mwa fisi kwa tuwa shiba tinkolo mili bwino. Watu la pia fale tuwa chubunga wali dula 120. So matamu tatibia nile tinkolo mili bwino.
Tasha vanapita mkwai. We'll take some more on 0955 221515. Let's accommodate this one. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yes, it is. Thank you for calling. Your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Mishek Mwale. I'm calling you within Lusaka.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my take really is not on politics.
Okay.
But my take is based on the law.
Right.
In this, yes, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a problem with the local court, in the sense that the local court, they have stopped issuing administratorship, so that document which they normally issue.
Yeah.
So now they've been taken it to High Court. So now I've got a challenge because I'm a pastor, and I've got people that I normally represent or they look up to me. So now the challenge is that when someone has got a 3,000 kwacha or a 2,000 kwacha in his account, Airtel Money account, now for that person now to go to High Court, he will need, to have a lawyer. Number two, you have to advertise. So now look at all these expenses of which someone just want to get a 1,000 kwacha, which is in the Airtel. Because if he goes to Airtel, request for that money, then they'll say, no, bring an administratorship or a document.
Yeah.
You see? And then all these processes. So now, since Mr. Kabimba, you are the lawyer. So I was asking, do you have any any other way on how you can instruct, or maybe you can ask for your fellow MPs or the MPs, so that they can amend this law, so that it can be taken back to the local court? Because a lot of people, they are suffering, especially, you see, in my church. You see, you find that there's one issue and then there's this and that. A lot of people, they are suffering. So I want your serious take on this one, Mr. Kabimba. Thank you so much. God.
Well, thank you very much, Mishek. Maybe I'll quickly ask you to respond to that.
Yeah, I think he raises a very important question, which is affecting a number of our people. The jurisdiction of the local court to grant letters of administration, I think was 500 kwacha, which is now, I think, less than that if you rebase it.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our people are having problems, with that. And this is where members of parliament are important, If really they interacted with our people, they would pick up these problems and even move a private member's, bill to deal with this matter. But it has to take a pastor now, because the people are going to him to go and cry. not to the MP, to cry that we have a problem in this area. There is hardly any estate today which would be less than 50 kwacha, for example. Okay? And not only that, the High Court also takes long to grant probate. I don't know what the problem is. It takes long to grant probate. And like he says, this person left 3,000 kwacha, for example, in his mobile or Airtel account. You need probate for that. You need to find a lawyer to go and apply for probate. The law must be able to save the poor, the indigent, the people that don't understand much of these things. So, Pastor Mishek, I understand you know what you are saying. I hope the people in the Ministry of Justice are listening. I hope members of Parliament are listening, because what you have just explained as a problem is rampant now. It is across the country. If you are going to take it that way, it means somebody must travel all the way from Chirubi, for example, to come and apply for probate in Lusaka for them to withdraw 2,000 kwacha from an Airtel account. I think it's ridiculous.
Let me take the last call. This last call is from Madam Mumbipiri.
Oh, my daughter.
Yes, indeed. Please go ahead.
Daddy, Happy New Year, and how are you?
My daughter, in whom I'm so proud. How are you?
I'm fine, the heroine in you.
Thank you.
You made me to be a heroine because you pronounced it as my father. Mr. President, what I'm worried about is these electoral reforms which Ramwangala Zaromis is trying to bring about.
Yeah.
And if you remember very well, when I came out of prison, I pronounced that I wanted to contest as president for Patriotic Front. But after reflection and looking at the present women whom we have in the highest institution of governance, the way they have conducted themselves, they have brought the bar of women down. I had hope, because at that time I was looking at the women like the late Judge Irene Mandilima, Balombe Sakunda, Florence, Judge Florence Mumba, name them. Now, but look at the women, Bamwangala Zaromes, for instance. Is she inspiring women? Is she making people realize that women have an independent mind and they are brave? We saw what was happening in Southern Province when we went for an election. Does she want to pave the way where, again, people in Southern Province will have the ballot papers, where even when the election is petitioned, nobody can prove that these ballots were not stamped, they didn't have the security feature, they can stuff them. If they were able to stuff the ballot boxes when they were in the opposition, what will stop them stuffing the ballot papers when they are in the ruling? Mwangala Zaromes already, Bamiti, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Badi Shita downgrade. Mwangala Zaromes, now I'm addressing you. You are a woman of integrity. You have just lost it at Papenese Palace. Ask yourself, Mayo, when the Lord calls you, what legacy are you going to leave? After having all this good record, we say we are now UPNP. Is it worth it? Ask yourself. And as the alliance partner, Bayama Vaneva Sumumba, in conclusion, he has also seen that there is a danger in what you want to do. Preserve the Zambian people. You being a mother, you are the one who gives birth, and you know what we go through as women. Don't set this country on fire. Dad, thank you very much.
Thank you, my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There you have it. That marks our conclusion in as far as phone calls are concerned, but you can respond to that if you like, and let's see how we get to close this.
Okay. Let me start with the last one from my daughter Mumbipiri. I think let's be fair to others. I know sometimes we may pick on the heads of these organizations, and whatever. What Mwangala Zalumis is managing as the chairperson of ECZ is a process. Okay? Mwangala is not the same position as the Speaker Nelly Muti. Okay? Nelly Muti gets points of order and she delivers a ruling. So she owns that ruling which she delivers. Mwangala Zalumis is managing a process. Okay? As head of ECZ. And I think, like I said earlier, ECZ must be proactive and give people time in terms of consultations. I think that is where I find a problem myself. That a lot of these things are being hurried. But it's not her. She's implementing a process initiated by government. People had complained about the limitation that it is late. Can you please do it after 2026 if you win? The government pushed. That there must be delimitation. It's now law. And what does ECZ do? ECZ must implement that law. And because of the time scale, obviously a lot of things that the stakeholders would have wanted to say, they're not able to do that within the given time. There are areas for delimitation now where they're just meeting for one day. Just one day. And you can't cover everybody in one day. So the process is creating discontent, not Mwangala herself as an individual. The process is creating discontent. And this has been on account of the timing by the government. The timing has been bad. Like Bana Peter said, nishita mwapembele fyo mwapembela nga mukawina, ero maesa mwaita, or delimitate ama constituencies. I think that has been the cry of the people. But UPN has paid not only a blind eye, but even a deaf ear, to those cries of the people. So I think UCZ, I'm talking about my church. ECZ has found itself in a very, very difficult situation. And I think stakeholders, we should understand that. They didn't make the law. They didn't formulate the bill. They didn't make the law. The law was made by Parliament. And what does the ECZ have to do? Have to do now? ECZ must implement that. Within what period? Within the time, or period that is remaining between now and 2026, because a lot of these things have an impact on the 2026 presidential and general elections. I hope I've answered thee.
Indeed. And your concluding remarks?
My concluding remarks, Zach, are that, Zambians should continue to remain peaceful as a nation. We have had elections in the past, and against the fears that Zambia may slide into pre-election violence, post-election violence, violence during elections, Zambians have come out clean as one people, as a people that believes in democracy. For our colleagues in the economic front, I want to urge you, continue the mobilization of the party. Because we must give the Zambian people a broader choice in the forthcoming elections. Because we believe that we have a better program that will not destroy what UPND has done, but build on what UPND has done. And I think we can push this country forward. So, Stumbeko Musokotane should have no fears. We shall build on what they are going to leave behind. And I'm sure they'll be happy. We may not be that close to the IMF because we want this economy to be driven by the Zambian people. We will not be very close, to the World Bank because we want the Zambian people to own and drive this economy. What else do we want to do? We want to make sure that we have an indigenous banking sector. We want an indigenous banking sector which can respond to the demands of the Zambian people and their expectations, and make sure that we have a thriving private sector. A banking sector that can lend at low interest rates and make it affordable for Zambians to borrow money, invest in their businesses, and pay back. The banking sector, as it stands now, is a guillotine. Once you get it there, then your head is gone. If you have one property which you have provided as security, then you can end up without a property. We don't want that kind of thing. So there are a lot of things, CDF, we are going to reform it and get that money and give it to local authorities. Free education, we shall make sure that before it is implemented in the way it is implemented, there must be infrastructure. We must have more classrooms and we must have more teachers so that the 1 teacher to 40 pupils ratio is promoted, because only then are you going to have a book educational system that can produce pupils and students with the concepts that can advance this country.
Mr. Wynter Kabimba, State Council and ODS President of the Economic Front Party, thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you, dear listeners, for your questions and for your participation.
And all the best.
Thank you.